What is going on today, and welcome to a brand new draft breakdown. I am excited to announce that the Opaloosa Roaring Moons have been accepted to the 2023 BBR Summer Scramble. For those of you that don't know what this is actually just a part of the BBR, part of their offseason. It's a huge tournament where teams are divided up into draft pools, and then you draft Pokemon with 8 other people. You all get 8-mon teams, and then you are divided into battle pools with 4 other people. And the top 2 of those battle pools will go into a bracket, and then you fight all the way until the end to see who becomes the champion. So we are hoping to make some noise in this season, because this is a big opportunity for us to even be accepted to it in the first place. We haven't been back into content that long, but that's not going to stop us. So I am going to be breaking down the team that I have, and I'm going to be breaking down why I chose the Pokemon I did, and we're going to see how this turns out. So let's jump right into that. We were the 8th pick. That means every time that it got to us, we got to make 2 picks, but we had to wait for everybody else to pick before us. But the good news is there were only 8 people, so not a ton of the broken things were gone by the time it got to me, and I think we ended up with a very, very strong first pick. So first we picked up Enamorus. Enamorus is crazy strong, and I haven't even got to use it yet, but every single time I've helped somebody prep with this Pokemon, or I've helped somebody prep against this Pokemon, or I've prepped against this Pokemon, it is a huge problem, especially in limited decks, which is what this is, because this is a Wi-Fi league. So Enamorus has a few different sets. The one you see on the screen right now is probably the main set that gets brought. It's just specs with Contrary, and then like Moonblast, Earth Power, Mystical Fire, Psychic. Sometimes they throw in U-Turn. Sometimes they throw in like maybe Superpower for coverage or anything like that. But that is not the only set this Pokemon can run. Enamorus runs anywhere from like Scarf to Boots to Life Orb to Leftovers as items. It can run like Scarf with the same exact moveset, and run like Healing Wish in case you want to just nuke yourself and then heal up an ally on your way out if you think you're going to die or whatever. It's got a great speed at 106, being the speed tier, which means it outspeeds a lot of the 105s, which is a pretty nice benchmark to hit in Paldea decks. It's got 135 special attack, so you don't even really need a boosting item a lot of the time. So Choice Scarf does really, really well because you don't need that boosting item. And then it can even run like Calm Mindsets. The only tricky part with Calm Mindsets is you do have to run Cute Charm over Contrary, because obviously you don't want to go down in your special attack and special defense. But you can run like Heavy Duty Boots, Calm Mind with about the same coverage, because Enamorus's coverage is insane. It doesn't even begin to scrape the surface of what you can do with this Pokemon, because you can run like physical sets with Superpower and Play Rough and U-Turn and whatever else comes to your mind with this Pokemon, because it also has 115 attack. So it's not even a bad physical attacker. This Pokemon is just crazy, and it has so many sets that I couldn't even write them all down. I think I've got 4 in my builder that I'm looking at right now, and it's just a crazy Pokemon. I think a really good pickup. And it can struggle with steel types. It has Earth Power and it has Mystical Fire, but if you're running into like a Corviknight, then that's not great. The Corviknight won't be able to run like Mirror Armor because you can be Contrary Mystical Fire, but Corviknight's SpDef is through the roof, and like Mystical Fire is not going to be 2-hit KOing it, so that's not amazing for it. So it does have some kind of problems with some steel types. So our next pick is supposed to help us with most steel types, being Sneasler. Sneasler is another insanely oppressive offensive threat. You have obviously 2 really, really good abilities with Unburden and Dire Claw. The main set that you're going to see is going to be anywhere from like Normal Gem Fake Out to Wide Herb to Air Balloon with SD Close Combat, Dire Claw or Gunk Shot, and Terra Blast, because Sneasler is also our Terra Captain. And the Terra rules for this are free Terra, but you have to DM your opponent at the start of the game what Terra type you are. So Sneasler as a Terra Captain is great, because we can just Terra out of whatever we're weak to and get the setup off. We can Terra into one of our stabs and get double stab on whatever we're clicking and kill everything, while we're also at double speed while doing it. Sneasler is just crazy. You can even run like Scarf and Band sets with Poison Touch and U-Turn and Dire Claw, which has a 30% chance to either paralyze, poison, or sleep your opponent, which is crazy. That just will come into play a good amount of times. It might not always put your opponent to sleep, which is what the biggest contention around that is, because a lot of leagues are allowing people to put multiple Pokemon to sleep if one of the things that puts them to sleep is Dire Claw, because there's no way to regulate that. And because we have Sneasler, we kind of get to abuse that a little bit, but I don't think it's going to come into play a ton, but that would be huge for us when it does. But the main thing that we're going to be running with this Pokemon will probably be Grassy Seed with Swords Dance and Acrobatics and stuff, because our next Pokemon that we picked up on the wheel afterwards was Rillaboom. And Rillaboom got Grassy Glide back in the DLC, which is what we're playing in. So that is huge for it. Now, Grassy Glide did get nerfed even more to 55 base power instead of the 60 base power that we thought it was going to get nerfed to from the data mines, but it is still relatively strong. It's about a 8 to 10% difference from what we thought it was, and from its original one from Gen 8, it's about a 15% difference. So it's a sizable nerf, but it's not huge. Grassy Glide is still really, really good for this Pokemon. You're looking at a bunch of Choice Band sets with Grassy Glide and Wood Hammer, Knockoff, and U-Turn. And the great thing is we get to U-Turn right into our Sneasler that is holding the Grassy Seed, proc it, and then get our Unburden boost plus a defense boost, and then be able to get off like an SD or something after we Terra. This pairing is insane. Like, you've heard of Rillaboom Hawlucha. This is just Rillaboom Hawlucha on steroids with Sneasler, and Rillaboom is going to play a key part in that, because in 8mon, Rillaboom is really, really, really hard to check, especially with Grassy Glide back now, because it also got a lot of fun new toys with like Trailblaze, so you can even run like Trailblaze, Life Orb, Wood Hammer sets and just get that +1 and not even worry about Grassy Glide, just get your +1 in speed. You still have things like Knockoff and Superpower and stuff like that. So this Pokemon all around is just solid, especially with the pairings that we have it with, because we've got a Pokemon that can spam Earth Power instead of Earthquakes. We're not really nerfing ourselves, which leads me into our next pick, which is a really fun new toy, Bloodmoon Ursaluna. We picked Bloodmoon Ursaluna because of what I just said previously. We don't want to be hurting ourselves by having to click Earthquake, but we have our own grassy terrain up, so we picked up a special ground type. And usually you see like the Nidos paired with this or something, but now we've got a new one, which is this Bloodmoon Ursaluna. And I'm guessing most of the time I'm going to be running like Calm Mind, Moonlight, Earth Power, and then Blood Moon. If you don't know a lot about Ursaluna, its Mind's Eye ability is basically just Scrappy and Keen Eye all in one, and it also ignores evasiveness, so that doesn't really matter in draft, but that's just a fun little thing that it does. But you can hit ghost types with normal and fighting type moves, and your accuracy cannot be lowered. So that means even if our opponent has a ghost type, we can spam this Blood Moon, which is a base 140 attack move, 100% accurate. Now, it does have the drawback of not being able to use it twice in a row, just like Gigaton Hammer, so that'll be interesting, but the Pokemon still gets like Hyper Voice and Terra Blast. It has other normal coverage that is going to be really good on it, and it's got like Focus Blast and things like that. It's even got Moon Blast. So I'm assuming that most of the time I'm going to be running this Calm Mind set, but that doesn't mean that you can't ever run like an Assault Vest set with Earth Power, Blood Moon, Moon Blast, and Hyper Voice, or a leftover set that's max defense because it also gets Body Press, and its base defense stat is actually 120, which is only 15 lower than its base special attack stat. It's got base HP of 113, a base special attack of 135. So this Pokemon is bulk city as far as defensively goes, especially defensively. It's got 65 SPDF, but off of that 113 HP. And if you slap on an Assault Vest, this thing's going to be really hard to kill, especially with the grassy terrain recovery from Rillaboom that we are giving it, on top of it just having its own recovery in Moonlight. So I think all around this Pokemon's going to be really, really solid, especially paired with the Rillaboom and the Sneasler and the Enamorus that can just kind of slow pivot into that, because what comes in on Enamorus? Steel types. What abuses them? This Ursaluna. I think it's going to be really good. The only downside to it is our ground doesn't have rocks, so we are kind of lacking in a department, but we'll go over that a little bit later. Next, we get Manaphy. Now, Manaphy is back to its glory days. Manaphy got Tailglow back in the DLC, which it hasn't had since Gen 7, I think. Maybe Gen 6. I think Gen 7 was the last time I had it. I think it got cut in Gen 8. So you're looking at over 5 years that it hasn't had this move, which is huge. So you're going to be looking at leftover sets with Tailglow, Surf, Energy Ball, and Ice Beam, or U-Turn, or whatever. It's a good support mon on top of now just being another crazy breaker that we have on this team. Because Tail Glow gives you a +3 in special attack, and you can just fire off surfs as much as you want, because base 100 across the board is so crazy with the solo water typing as far as bulk goes that you can get those things off. You also have sets that are like Rain Dance, Calm Mind, Hydration, and Rest. And you just Rain Dance, Rest, Calm Mind, and then spam Water move, or Rain Dance, Rest, and now even more broken move. I kind of misspoke, because when you were actually using the move Take Heart, it cures all your status and gives you a Calm Mind boost. So you don't even need Rain Dance and Hydration anymore on this Pokemon. You can just straight up use Take Heart. You can't be toxic, because you can just Take Heart again, get rid of that toxic, and get a +1 boost in special attack and special defense. I've seen a lot of leagues banning this move specifically, but BBR allowed it, and I got it on this Manaphy. So not only do we get Tail Glow back, but we get this busted setup move for bulky Manaphy setups, and I think that's going to be great, again, especially paired with the grassy terrain recovery and leftovers recovery that we can get with this Pokemon. So we are going to see how that goes, because I am very, very excited to see Manaphy back and doing the things that Manaphy does best. And then after this, I decided, okay, Rick, you have gotten enough setup, enough offense. You need to figure out what you're doing about hazards, because in an 8-mon draft, you kind of need to compress some roles together, right? An 8-mon draft is not easy. It's definitely way harder than an 11-mon draft, which just feels like you're able to build a good team no matter what. So at this point, we still don't have a steel. We still don't have rocks. So we need to make sure that whatever steel type we are getting can set rocks. And the problem is there's not a lot of good steel types in Paldea, but I did get one of them, which is Bronzong. Now, I will say the one bad thing about Bronzong is we're not getting the grassy terrain recovery with our steel type, but I don't think that's a huge deal. I think that would just have been a nice synergy to have, but I couldn't find one other than like maybe Caparaja, but Caparaja wasn't really giving me what I wanted to see from it while I was looking at Pokemon. So I ended up going with Bronzong. And like most of the time, you're going to be seeing Stealth Rock, Gyro Ball, EQ, like maybe Hypnosis, maybe Body Press, maybe whatever in that last slot, with some mixed defenses, because his defenses are pretty good. And you can also run like Iron Defense and Body Press sets with Psychic and Rest, and you can't be toxic, so that's great. Overall, this Pokemon is just a solid defensive piece. I've never been upset by a Bronzong anytime I've used it. I don't think a lot of people have been upset by a Bronzong anytime they've used it. Its typing is really good. It's got Jirachi's typing with Steel and Psychic, so you're not weak to a lot. You resist a lot. You 4 times resist Psychic, which was something that I really needed, was a Psychic resist on this team, because we don't end up with a Dark type, and no Dark type can be a little frustrating when you're prepping against a lot of Psychic types or things that get Psychic coverage. So having a 4 times resist isn't as good, but it's all right. We'll be doing okay in that department. So we picked up Bronzong, which I'm very, very happy about, because it gives us our rocks, it gives us our steel, and it gives us a solid Pokemon that can just come to every game and do okay in every single game, which is what you need to look for in an 8-mon draft. And at this point, I have about 4 points left for 2 Pokemon, and I start looking at the low tiers, and the low tiers are bad for the tiers that they're in. And it's not the admin's fault for that. I think it's Terra's fault, because the way that BBR did their Terra rules was everybody got to Terra one Pokemon. Everybody has one Terra Captain, and that Terra Captain could Terrastalize into any type that it wanted, like I said. The problem is that means you have to tier every Pokemon like it's going to Terrastalize, because you don't want to put Jolteon in 5 points and then somebody take it as a free Terra Cap and it actually do a lot better than a 5-pointer should, because now it's a Terra Captain. The only flaw I see with that is that most of the time people are not going to be Terrastalizing their low tier Terra types, because they're going to be Terrastalizing their Sneaslers and their Garchomps and their Urshifu Rabbit Strikes and things like. You're going to be Terrastalizing their high tiers, but that doesn't take away from the fact that you have to tier the low tiers as if they were going to Terra. So that meant a lot of the low tiers were boosted up past where I was comfortable paying for them, or past what I was even able to afford, because of Terra. So it took me a while to find some Pokemon that I think were worth it. But what I was looking for was just a Pokemon that can come to a game and have one good matchup, be able to fish one good matchup out for me, because that's all I'm looking for my 3-point Pokemon, because at max I can spend 3 points on one Pokemon right now, which I found, and it's actually Lycanroc Midnight. Lycanroc Midnight is one of my favorite low tier Pokemon. Actually, I've had a few seasons with Lycanroc Midnight, and it sometimes leaves a little bit to be desired, but I like the Pokemon. I think it's cool. It was the only like fully evolved Pokemon in 3 points, so I'm gonna take it. It's got a pretty good speed tier at like 82, I think, and most of the time you're gonna see like Choice Scarf with Stone Edge, Close Combat, Rock Blast, and Play Rough, or Crunch maybe, or something like that, because it's got pretty good coverage. I think it even gets like Fire Fang, and wow, it got Knockoff this gen. That's actually huge for it. I did not know that. I'm learning that right now. That's huge. Knockoff for this Pokemon is crazy good. But outside of that, I was already happy. Now I'm more happy. Now I'm thinking this might be like a really, really decent Pokemon to just bring to games, because Knockoff is such a good move. It gives us another like offensive rocker, so nothing to scoff at. I don't think. Its attack is 115, and like we said before with the Enamorus, that's a good attack stat. At 82 speed, you're a really good Scarfer. 115 attack with 100% accurate Stone Edges. I'll take it. For 3 points, I'll take it. You also have like Life Orb sets with SD and Stone Edge and Sucker Punch, because it gets Sucker Punch. So it doesn't get Excel Rock like the other Lycanrocs do, but it does get Sucker Punch, so you have a little bit of priority there. And I think overall, just for a 3-point pickup, it's just solid. And like I said, I will take it every single day. And then last, maybe the steal of the draft, because I kind of bent the rules a little bit on this one. I looked at the rules and I saw that they said that any NFE or LC Pokemon, which means not fully evolved or baby Pokemon, first stage evolution Pokemon, that was not on the tier list, could be grabbed at 1 point. And any Pokemon that was fully evolved, not on the tier list, was just not able to be grabbed. Like if the draft started and nobody had said, hey, you're missing Garchomp on the dock, nobody was going to be able to get that Garchomp for 1 point. It would just have been banned at that point. Nobody would have been able to grab it. Where I bent the rules a little bit was I took a Pokemon that didn't evolve at all. And I decided that I would take the risk and see if they gave it to me. And if they gave it to me, then yay, I'm happy. If they didn't give it to me, then I would just pick another Pokemon. It would be no big deal. I wasn't going to fight them on it, because, you know, I was trying to be a little cheeky and bend the rules a little bit. But they did never say anything to me, and they put it on the dock, so we got to keep it. They forgot Komala on the dock. Now, it's not a huge steal, right? Like, it's not like, oh my gosh, that's crazy that they forgot it. I can believe that they forgot the Pokemon, but it is about a 3 or 4 point Pokemon if you're really looking at it objectively. So to get it for 1 is huge, especially when all the other 1-pointers were like Pikachu and whatever the little baby form of Scovillain is. Pepperman, I don't know what it is. But when you're looking at all these little trash 1-pointers, then when you see a Komala that you can grab at 1 point, you get a little bit happy, especially because now we finally have a spinner. I think this team is super offensive. Like, if people are setting hazards versus me, that's almost not horrible for me. It's almost good for me, because I get to take advantage of those turns that they're setting them. And the good news is, like, the only Pokemon that's kind of passive enough for people to set hazards against is Lycanroc. I mean, not Lycanroc, it's Bronzong. But even Bronzong has a pretty good matchup into a lot of the grounds and rocks and steals, because we have Body Press. We're not weak to Body Press. We're immune to EQ. So, like, even if people want to come in on the Bronzong and set rocks, that's fine. But we do have a Rapid Spinner now for when we need it, if we need it. But Komala is actually a really, really good low tier normal as far as like a Spadef wall goes, as far as a ghost immunity goes, because its most common set is just Assault Vest with like Rapid Spin and Knock Off and U-Turn, and maybe like Earthquake. It used to run Return in Gen 7, but obviously we don't have that anymore, so you can run like EQ or Body Slam or anything along those lines. Body Slam to get paras and stuff. So its coverage is insane. It gets like Wood Hammer, it gets Superpower, I think. It gets Ice Spinner now, it gets Gunk Shot, it gets Rock Slide, it gets Super Fang now. I don't think it had that before. I might be wrong. I'm actually going to live check that right now and select a Gen 8 format and put Komala in, because I don't think Komala had Super Fang before. I see Super Power. I don't see Super Fang. Did it get that in the DLC? Because I also don't know if it had that pre-DLC. I'm also going to just check that, because there's some pre-DLC formats on here. Super Fang. No, it doesn't show Super Fang in the pre-DLC either, but it shows it to me in the DLC. So I'll have to check that. If it got Super Fang, that's a pretty big buff for it, because you're just taking 50% HP just because you want to. That's crazy. I'm learning lots about my team right now before even prepping, which is good. So I get some really cool moves, and I think as a 1-point Pokemon, it's really useful. It got knockoff back in the DLC, that I do know for sure. So getting a couple knock users on my team is really, really good. But that is the draft breakdown. I haven't done one of these in a long time, so I did ramble for 23 minutes. And I hope that you stayed to watch the whole thing. I'm very excited. Our games will be going up on Saturdays for this league, so keep an eye out for those. We have 3 games to play in our pool round, and then hopefully we make it out of pools and we get into the bracket, because I really want to seize this opportunity. So that is where I'm going to leave you. If you like what you saw, like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.